Hey everybody, MCA here. Welcome to GAMF. This week we're doing a Star Wars episode. Hopefully this will come out around Star Wars Day in May. That's the plan anyway. I'm here on the far end of the Victoria line, where I've been working in London the last few weeks, doing my usual video nonsense. And I thought I'd record this open to introduce this episode. It was recorded about a week after The Last Jedi came out, and features our discussion about it that was meant to go into Season 2 but never did, because it was way too long. My audio quality on this episode is not great. I've tried to clear it up a little bit, but it's not perfect compared to Gerard's, who is always silky smooth. By the end of this episode, I was half cut on Cherry Breakwell vodka, and probably frustrating Gerard with my long, rambling nonsense. And now you get to enjoy all of that. I've cut about an hour and a bit from this episode. It originally ran much longer than the film itself. I think it's coherent. I think it's quite good now. I hope you enjoy it.
Return to a galaxy far, far away. The heart of a hero. The courage of a rebel. The strength of a leader. The loyalty of comrades. The power of the Force. An epic of heroes, villains, and aliens from 1,000 worlds. The quest continues. The circle closes. The saga lives on.
How do you want to do this one? Because I was going to make notes, but I never have. But I know it's pretty fresh in my head.
Yeah, didn't you go to see it last night or the night before?
I saw it again on Thursday. Yeah.
Thursday, okay. And have you seen it in 3D at all?
Yeah, I saw the IMAX on Thursday.
IMAX 3D. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I saw it this time last week.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it in 3D as well, but not IMAX.
Oh, really? Okay. Any reason you went for the 3D?
I didn't buy the tickets.
Okay.
I went with family, so yeah, it was just...
They were just like, just buy those ones.
Just come along and, yeah.
Is that why you went in the morning as well? Or is it just because there was a slot or whatever?
Yeah, basically. They ordered the tickets, I think, a couple of months ago.
Okay.
And it was actually a good plan because on the way out, on the way in, we didn't have to wait or line up or anything like that. And on the way out, there was the back and forth TSA style chain of people waiting to get into the next screening, and it was like 5 screens in that theater.
How early did you go?
10 o'clock.
Okay, so not even like not like a. I know some places have done screenings from like 7 a.m. So like you could get it in and still make it to work. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So have you seen it the once?
Yes, just the once. I was trying to fit in another viewing this week, but just didn't happen.
I went to a midnight screening.
Okay, it was opening night, right? Wasn't it that Wednesday, Thursday night?
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I did a double bill, so the double bill started about 9.
With Force Awakens.
Force Awakens.
Okay.
So, right. Okay. So, should we just dive into it? Should we do a pre-spoiler kind of chitty chat, general opinions, and then the rest of it's just going to be a fucking hour of spoilers because actually not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Because you can't really not do that.
What did you think of The Last Jedi, good sir?
Overall, I rather enjoyed it. I had problems with it, but overall, I rather enjoyed it. How about you?
I fucking loved it.
Oh, really? Okay.
It might be my favorite Star Wars film of all time.
Wow, I'm a little bit surprised. Okay, that's great.
You're a little bit surprised because I've been really coy about this on text with you.
You have, and I've deliberately avoided social media.
I've tried to give you the opinion that I might have hated it with a vitriol.
Yeah, I couldn't quite tell. You were so cagey that I was like, I'm not going to try and infer anything because I don't have any idea. So what was it about it that really swayed you?
It's. I think we've discussed this. The idea that you could get bored of Star Wars has played on my mind quite a lot since the end of Force Awakens, which was, quite a good film.
Yeah, it was fine,
but very much is obviously a retread and nostalgia thing, and a play on a lot of what has gone before, which is great because it reminds you how much you used to love Star Wars.
Absolutely, yeah. I got lost in the nostalgia.
Yeah, which is fine, but I'm not the biggest fan of nostalgia. Never have been.
No.
But I'm fine with reverence, I suppose.
Sure, that's different than nostalgia.
It's different from nostalgia. This sort of dewy-eyed kind of looking back and just retreading it, and remember, when this was,
the past was always better. Basically, my childhood was always better. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and how that has become an industry unto itself nowadays.
Yes.
But anyway, so I'm I haven't been a fan, but the prequels are a mixed bag for us, as I'm sure we'll get into in spoilers. Because of this one's ability to just kind of excite me in both as a film, as a franchise film, or a franchise installment, and as filmmaking in general. Which I think some of it, and we'll get into this, I think some of it could be a bit of a trick, but either way, I've been susceptible to the trick, and I'm very happy to have been tricked.
Okay, all right. I must admit, I was shocked by the way it affected me, because I've been doing my best to stave off my cynicism, because I similar to you, I really enjoyed kind of getting swept up in the new Star Wars, and it's not a prequel of Force Awakens. I enjoyed Rogue One for what it was, flaws and all. I thought, well, okay, it's not quite a Kevin J. Anderson extended universe film, but it was fine in many respects. And there were bits of it that I really enjoyed, and I had problems with some of it, but
right.
I got some major prequel vibes from the trailer for The Last Jedi.
Actually, you've said that to me before, but yeah. I must go back and watch those trailers now, actually.
There was just the kind of the non-stop action and some of the imagery that made me go, ooh, I'm a bit worried. And I recognized that kind of being the spark that ignites the raging fire of cynicism and this is shit. So, and I tried to snuff it out as best I could and go in with as pure a heart as I possibly could.
Okay.
Resultantly, when the Lucasfilm logo comes up and the Star Wars hits, I immediately had dewy eyes. I was like weepy, and completely unexpectedly, I was like, it's fucking Star Wars, and I kind of had that excitement in me, and I didn't expect it. I wasn't expecting it whatsoever, but and there were a few moments throughout the film where that sort of thing kind of happened to me, and it really kind of got to me. And those bits I really enjoyed, and it was just bits that we'll get into later that kind of undercut that somewhat.
Okay, this isn't. I wondered if one of us was going to hate it. So
no,
this isn't going to be quite the point counterpoint.
No, I definitely didn't hate it. Overall, I definitely enjoyed it. I just have some nitpicky things that I think a couple of people that I've tried to avoid social media about it, but it's kind of hard to get away from it.
I've read quite a lot of things, so I can catch you up on a few bits.
Okay, a couple of people that I've not managed to avoid though, have said that on second viewing they saw more and had a different opinion of it, and it kind of developed their opinion of it. Didn't switch it around completely. Initially they were like it's fine, and then on second viewing they were like actually it's great. So I kind of want to see it again and see if that happens. So.
I would be interested to hear if it does, actually.
Yeah.
I would say on second viewing, any even minor criticisms I had pretty much burnt away.
Wow. Okay.
Because most of the answers are actually in there in deft filmmaking ways. So if you kind of go like, well, how did that happen? Like Jay had a few, we were texting back and forth after he'd seen it. And was like, how did that happen? And then I saw it again and I was like, actually, because they just show this and it perfectly explains it.
Cool.
and I only really had one of those because I'd missed a line, I guess. But it was I was exhausted when I went into the screening.
Well, it was late night, so
First Awaken, and I got back here at like 4 a.m. or something, quite like, and then the next day I was like wreck. But then so I've seen it now. I'm going to say 2.7 times because I nodded out a bit in screening 2 because it was Saturday afternoon with Ed, and I was exhausted from 3 days on the trot of work. This is the solid week of not really sleeping at home.
Right.
That I had into Monday night, which was I ended up off sick on Tuesday because of it, so I just had to sleep. So I nodded out for a little bit. I realised I woke up and I realised that I'd missed the bit where she gives the kid the ring.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, let's not get into that spoilers. But 2.7 times. So I think I'm pretty well versed in answering any quibbles you might have. So this could get quite good.
Okay, great.
Actually, before we get into this, do you want to spoilers?
Yeah, let's declare spoilers at whatever minute of the pod this is.
Yeah. We'll find it and we'll put it in the tiny bit of text we put below this. Oh, we won't, because fuck you. You've probably already seen. If you're listening to this, you should have seen. Everyone's seen it, haven't they? Like it's done shockingly well considering the all the hoopla around it.
Yeah. If you're my mother, you haven't seen it, so why are you listening anyway? But you haven't seen any of the movies that we reviewed. I'm pretty sure.
Wendy, what are you playing at? What are you playing at, Wendy? Come on.
Seriously.
Better things to do than this.
She's one of our few regular listeners. Let's not put her off.
Right, yeah. Well, we love you, but you stop here and go and see the film. Are you back? Okay. Okay. Right. Spoilers. Everything from here on is spoilers. I believe I'll put in something here.
Can it just be both of us going, Luke dies?
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Luke
becomes
dies.
one with the Force.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Doesn't die.
Yeah, it doesn't die.
Says, no one ever goes.
Yoda's a puppet, and I loved it.
Yoda's a puppet. A force puppet, a force ghost hits someone with a stick. That's fucking amazing. Actually, do you just want to do, before we get into this, do you want to do some highlights?
Oh, yeah, sure, let's do it.
So I said this online. My top 3 highlights were scene that basically explains why I'm vegan nowadays.
Oh, the creepy green milk thing?
There's literally 3. It can be any one, but when I say that, it depends who I'm speaking to, which one they go to. Yeah, the crazy milk one.
Yeah.
Because
with the creepy look as well, like there's two creepy looks in that. There's Luke where he's drinking it and staring intensely into Rey's eyes, and it's all in his beard. And then the creature turns to Rey and is kind of like, "I'm enjoing this." It's really creepy. I love it. Oh, this feels great.
Oh, it's so creepy.
But I loved it.
The porg one with Chewie,
with the sad little porg. Yeah.
Which I've heard people say online, they assume that the little porg that he's about to eat... the little porg that's all like, that is looking at him, he's about to eat his mother.
Like it.
And then the third one is all the animal rights stuff, sort of halfway through with the
horse cow things.
The horse cow things, yeah. I've heard them called long ears, and I don't know if that's canonical.
Okay.
Or basically, they look like the things from The Last Guardian, if you've ever seen anything to do with that video game.
No. Oh yes. Okay, I saw
Project Trico. It was called.
I saw previously recorded, like teased it when they did one of their E3 coverage things. Is it little boy and giant like dog thing? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like that to me. That's what I made me think a lot of Project Trico, which became The Last Guardian.
Okay.
Which was by the people who made Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. What were my other 2 highlights? Droid belly scratching.
Oh, okay.
When the BB-8 comes back to Poe, he rubs his body and he scratches his belly. And these are my 3 ones: the vegan one, the droid belly scratching. Oh, Aid Edmondson. Sorry, Aid Edmondson was my 3rd.
Aid Edmondson.
Aid Edmondson. Did you not?
Lots
of people just completely missed it. Was Aid Edmondson?
Who was?
He was Hux's #1 guide.
Was he?
Yeah, the one who's like.
Shit.
That was Aid Edmondson.
That was Aid Edmondson? Oh, I love that. Okay. One of mine was actually the moment where, and this is a deep spoiler, I keep wanting to call her Ponda Babu, but that's not her name, General Hodor. Something like
Okay.
that. What's her name?
Hodor.
That's a Game of Thrones thing, isn't
Hodor
it?
is bloody Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Um,
Hondo.
Holdo.
Holdo, there you go. The moment that really stood out to me, one of the highlights is when she sacrifices herself and goes to light speed through the Snoke ship, and the filmmaking to get into kind of like a cinematography space. The filmmaking on that I thought was exquisite because
Yes.
just it's the sound the sound of her going and then just silence, like a several beats of silence. And I was in my mind, I was just like, that was badass because it was just a great moment. I thought
They sent a warning out to projectionists with that, in case the projectionists thought everything had gone horribly wrong, because apparently it's literally silence.
Oh, really?
Like there will be no readout on your thing
meter,
for it
yeah.
for like 10 seconds or whatever.
Wow. So don't freak out.
Yeah, so some cinemas apparently posted a notice about it, which was considered a spoiler.
And we've got my email if you've got it to hand.
Oh, you know what? Fuck, I forgot all about that. Let me bring up this.
With some predictions that I now realize after I went into the screening halfway through, I was like, shit. I kind of mixed up the timeline of The Force Awakens and Rogue One. So,
really?
so there might be some stuff in there that's like, yeah, that can't make sense. That couldn't have happened. So forgive me for that, but it'll be funny. So, yeah,
there will be no quarter.
G3 doesn't know Star Wars. Hand in your geek card moments.
I'd completely forgotten you'd written this. So this is like a.
I wrote it the morning of.
Yeah.
It's starting at home and on the way. So the last couple were literally in the car on the way to the theater to watch it.
So I received this email on the 16th of December at 16:25, which would be 9:25.
Yeah, 9:25. Yeah.
Thought this would be fun for our Last Jedi pod. My predictions by Jared House, aged 33 and 2/3. Caveat: I have read nothing about this movie. This is based purely on inference from the trailer and what we learned in The Force Awakens. 1. Rey will struggle with temptation from the dark side, but will ultimately end up learning that it's not as straightforward as light and dark. The phrase "this is the light and dark" I
It should
fucked
be
that up.
there is. This is the is, but it should be there is light and dark in all. The light, yeah. It's supposed to say
That's
there
not
is.
what you said.
No, I
It's
said
not. No, we're going with what you said.
Okay, all right. Read what I said.
The phrase "the is light and dark in is all" will be used at some point. Now, let's address this. Shall we?
Shit.
The is light and dark in is all. No, I don't remember anyone saying that.
No one did say that. No. So my overarching theme of this movie
Sorry.
was that I thought we were going to get into a post-Cold War, it's all muddy kind of era of Star Wars, and the notion of light and dark was going to go away, and everything was going to be grey, kind of, and it was going to be Rey, grey. It's like poetry; it rhymes. That's a George Lucas quote. But yeah, that didn't happen. At least not to the degree I was expecting it to.
I think you might be right, though. I think in time that could be where it goes. Certainly, a lot of the sentiments expressed throughout the film, by the Kylo Ren, the whole let it die and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a great article, I think it was on BuzzFeed, about how Kylo Ren is too clever a character for this franchise. Or
Interesting.
Too
nuanced,
broad, or too
complex.
nuanced. Yeah, because he's basically a school shooter that you sympathise with.
That's a really good description of him.
And because you sympathise with him and to an extent sometimes in this film agree with him.
Yeah.
But depending on how much time passed between this and The Force Awakens, just fucking killed Han Solo, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
His own father.
Right, killed his own father, and almost killed his own mother in a moment in this film, but didn't. There was that's a really good and kind of interesting thing, because you do kind of sympathize with him, and there's a parallelism between what he thinks and what Luke thinks. Luke's whole thing of this, it's time for the Jedi to end, which was, heavily featured in the trailer. And then that sentiment comes out with, like, it's time for the Jedi and the Sith to end, or the Rebellion and the Empire / First Order to end at the end, when Kylo's trying to convince Rey to join him at the end of the film. So there is an element of that. It's just not quite as heavily played out, and it's kind of backed off on at the end of the film, and reset a little bit for the next film.
Do you think so?
I would say so, just because of Kylo's turn and the fact that he just seems to have assumed power. But
it doesn't mean that he's going to be the
new emperor.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. But the implication I got, the inference I took from it, let's say, was that that he kind of, by Rey's rejection of him, gone, screw it, I'm going to assume control instead of in Snoke's stead.
Yeah, I suppose without having that analog from the light, they can't control both sides. And then when she's raising the rocks at the end, I suppose she very much is the beginning of the new Jedi Order, or whatever you want to call it. Not necessarily that far, because the very anti-establishment kind of way it leads into that, isn't it? But
yes. And I was nodding, and when Luke was giving his speech about Jedi and having to end, I was like, yeah, definitely, because I kind of hated what the Jedi were in the prequels.
Yeah,
kind of like pseudo-governmental, but have zero accountability organization of like religious monks who go around with have these extremely powerful these extreme powers and the ability to shift the balance of power in the galaxy, literally. And I was like, I don't know if they're necessarily any less malevolent a force than the Sith, and at least the Sith are being honest with what they are, whereas these guys are kind of like under the auspices of being good, massaging the fabric of reality for to match their vision. So I had a real hard time with the Jedi, and I was like, yeah, definitely. When Luke was kind of giving his speech about how the Jedi really shouldn't continue.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, that's, in many ways, it's also some sort of commentary on resetting Star Wars overall, which is what I think I responded to so much in terms of my takeaway from it, in terms of how much I enjoyed it, because it's kind of so unreverential. Not so unreverential, it's so unnostalgic for what went before. It's not just like, that's what we always had, let's do that.
Yeah.
About that. And that's, because, I mean, if you look, we'll get into the prequels, but yeah, what they did and how you first meet the Jedi in Episode 4.
Yep.
And then, I don't know, depending
they're
on which
dead,
way
essentially at that point, they're
dead.
Yeah.
And it's not about bringing back what they were.
No.
In the fucking Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, in the days of the Republic, as it were.
Yeah. Right, do you want to do number 2?
Yeah, let's do number 2.
Despite this, Kylo Ren will turn to the light.
Wrong.
Oh shit, really? After the capricious nature of Snoke becomes clearly evident, Snoke will order some mass loss of life and not care, giving old pointy face pause. Old pointy face Adam Driver?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're way off, mate.
Yeah, way off. Yeah,
I did like that they created that. Sorry, Karen.
No, I thought that this was going to be the facility for him to really regret killing his father and see that the dark side doesn't care about life at all, and that was what was going to turn him.
Oh, okay. I've been giving this some thought, and I'm sure they will turn him by the end of the next one, especially if it's potentially going to be the film I think it's going to be now. But I was thinking about how, like, the first trilogy, the prequels are the sort of fall of Anakin.
Yes.
And then the second trilogy is kind of the rise of Luke.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're doing rises and falls of the Skywalker, like if this is still the Skywalker saga,
mm-hmm.
which I'm not sure it is, then this is the fall or the the rise of an evil, the fall, rise, whatever, of Ben Solo.
Sure.
Because he's in theory, based on the revelations in this, he's the only Skywalker.
Yes. Yeah. Because
If the episodes still are the Skywalker saga, then in theory this is he would end this one, and then by the time we get to 10, 11, 12, he's fucking Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So he hasn't even peaked in terms of his evil yet.
Okay. Interesting.
Him killing his dad is just him murdering sand people or younglings or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Kylo killed younglings.
you were the chosen one.
I hate you.
Acting.
Number 3.
Number 3.
I'm so sad this didn't happen. I'm so sad this didn't happen.
Finn and Poe will have a buddy cop movie type relationship, but both be in love with Rey, causing conflict between them, a la Luke, Han, and Leia. This will be neatly tied up by the end of the movie, however.
Nope.
Now, I still think that Poe and Finn are going to get it on.
Oh, okay. That's hot.
I think there's a little bubbling under there. I don't know that they'll do that in what is a kids' film, essentially. Like, I still believe these are children's films, which is why I like kind of broad stroke storytelling, and why I think some of the people who are on the angrier, more trolly end of the conversation online need to just back off, because they were kids when they fell in love with this thing.
Right,
so
yeah. And
remember that it's
that,
still a kids' film. Yeah, it hasn't aged with you. They're still pitching for the same audience.
Sure. Yeah, I was hoping that because like their relationship in there wasn't enough of them together in The Force Awakens for me, so I was hoping they were going to remedy that in this, and they didn't. They weren't together enough for me, because I think they got a really nice kind of buddy relationship going on, and they didn't. That was one of my criticisms of the movie, was that they didn't use that enough. And I wanted to see them getting up to shenanigans and covering each other and like blaster battles and stuff. And there wasn't nearly enough of that for me, but I was still okay with it. It's just that was kind of what I was hoping for.
That's quite fair, actually. They could have very much decided to do the proper Finn and Poe movie, which would have been nice.
Yeah.
But then I think they would have had to address certain things. I don't think Rian Johnson wanted to deal with that shit.
Is it Ryan?
Ryan.
It's Ryan. Okay, I've been saying it Rian.
That's what Jay was doing as well, and it's just like...
Oh, okay, because it looks Welsh, but I suppose that'd be Ryan.
Ryan Johnson. He is Welsh. No,
he is Welsh. Wasn't the last one Welsh?
J.J. Abrams.
No, I was thinking Rogue One. Wasn't that Gareth Edwards?
Oh, I forget now. I can't. We got into that.
We did get into it. Let's not get into it again.
Either of them were Welsh. Either of the two Gareths I thought were Welsh. Neither of them are. Yeah, it is interesting how this movie chunks up its characters, which we'll come back to.
Yes.
Where it sends them and who it introduces, which again I think has pissed off a lot of people. Okay, next 4. Embarrassing Honey Valley will make an appearance. Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, none of that.
There's a few shots that were kind of dog shit, but on the whole, I think it's some of it's a new benchmark.
Absolutely. The seamless... The seamless mixture, or let's say compositing, of CG and practical effects in this was brilliant. And I was going off Rogue One, and what's his name, Grand Moff Tarkin.
Okay.
I was like, I hope they don't do that again. But given the fact that I think this was in production before Rogue One came out, and they probably wouldn't have had a chance to address, or they would have actually, the kind of universally negative reaction to the Tarkin stuff, and to a lesser extent the Leia stuff at the end of that. I was worried that they were going to be so far down the line putting someone else in, and I knew it wouldn't be Carrie Fisher because from what I understood, they had all, if not all, then most of her stuff shot before she died. But I was worried.
Sorry.
No, I was just worried there was going to be like a character from one of the originals that was going to be put in and was going to look terrible, and there wasn't, and I'm glad.
Yen Num.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a guy in a rubber suit, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a guy.
I'm fine with that.
He looked a bit fatter, but if he'd shown up being a CGI guy doing backflips.
Yeah.
Think if there were CGI aliens all over the shop, but I mean Snoke. I thought Snoke looked pretty good. I mean, he looked a bit old man Steptoe, but
yeah. I suppose, but yeah, it wasn't. he wasn't meant to look superhuman. I mean, in that way, I don't know whether he's a deformed human in the way that Darth Sidious was, or whether he's just another creature. And we weren't given any information about that, so he could still be Jar Jar for all we know.
Is there a theory that
There
he's
is
Jar Jar?
there is an amazingly well written, like it's probably like a 2,000-word essay on why Snoke is Jar Jar. It's fabulous.
Holy crap.
maybe I'll dig it up. I think I found it on Reddit and put a link to it in the description of this.
I think that's just to get into that for a minute. I forget what my thought was a minute ago that I've just completely abandoned. But anyway, the abandonment of or the lack of addressing those kind of Snoke theories and Rey's parents theories,
Yes.
is a lot of what I think's pissed people off.
Yeah,
And a lot of the reason I love is just kind of like, it doesn't matter.
I thought exactly the same. So the group that I went to see it with, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of
Right.
Snoke, and spoiler, Snoke died too easily, and I'm like, I'm actually kind of okay with that, because we have done in the Star Wars series, we have done the arch unambiguously evil bad guy thing, and I kind of didn't want to see that persist. I didn't want another emperor.
Yeah.
And I was glad he's gone, and I'm glad it wasn't Count Dooku style lightsaber battle. I was worried we were going to get flippy floppy Snoke at some point, and the argument that I made was, you couldn't have done that, because he's just demonstrated that he is essentially all powerful, and he had to be tricked into being killed, because the way he was flipping Leia around, and the way that he just like there was a burst early on in the film, a burst of Force lightning, when he was disappointed with what Rilo Kent. I always spoon-rice that. That's a Red Letter Media thing. I think either Rich or Mike called him Rilo Ken in like their Force Awakens predictions video, and it stuck with me for the last 3 years or whatever it is. So yeah, there was no way you could have an outright battle where he loses. It wouldn't have rung true, because he was like, well, he was just controlling the entire universe essentially with his Force powers, so he had to be tricked into being killed. And sorry, that's point 6, but.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy him just throwing William Regal around the ship at the start?
I did. That was fun.
I bloody love that. Just the amount of times, because Ben Solo. I'm going to call him Ben Solo from now on, because I think this film is very much the death of Kylo Ren, as well as a kind of manufactured persona of Ben Solo. Because literally he says he's wearing a costume or whatever, doesn't he, at the start?
Yeah.
And he smashes his helmet.
Yeah, that's fun.
And but anyway, he was flipping him around, because at the end Ben Solo does it as well, doesn't he? He throws him off that. He throws him off the thing in the ship at the end as well. Like basically, like William Regal just gets thrown around in this one.
Yeah.
Like, and I kind of dug that. And he also grew sideburns in about. I don't know how much time. How much time do you think is supposed to have elapsed between these two films? Because it can only be a month at most.
Yeah, not much at all.
Yeah, he grew sideburns in that time. Got those sweet sideburns coming in.
William Regal.
Yeah, it is William Regal, basically.
So, point 5.
Point 5, sorry. I think that they have to kill Leia. Interesting.
I'm 0 for 5.
Though I have... Oh, really? You got one thing right, didn't you? No, you didn't.
Nope.
Though I haven't read anything to that effect, but there's no way they can persist with a CGI character after this. Very true. They said very early on that there were no changes. They were going to make no changes to the Leia arc in this film.
Did they? Okay. I haven't read that.
After she died, they weren't going to do, because I think that might have come out after Rogue One with a CGI Leia that didn't look quite right.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to do a CGI character for 9, and no changes were made to this. And did you get that feeling? Actually, and this is what I just forgot to say a couple of minutes ago. When she gets burst out into space.
Oh, I thought that was it.
I started to well up.
Oh, me too.
I was like, fuck, this is why they've made no changes to her storyline. Because they kill her
already
20
killed
minutes
her.
in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, you just see that, the close-up of her face as it starts to
stuff.
Ice, and you're just like, oh my God, this is how she's going to go out, which could have been a catalyst for the Kylo Ren beat that you were talking about, turning to the light, that someone else killed his mother, or the first. I mean, they didn't have to kill millions. They could have just killed one woman, and they could have motivated.
That's true. That's true.
And
What did you think about her using the Force? I get the feeling that that would be a fairly polarizing thing to save herself.
Oh, yeah,
I loved it. I thought it was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought that kind of that imagery, it made me think of kind of fantasy movies of the 80s and like a Dark Crystal, never-ending story kind of way. Just the aesthetic feel of it was very. It felt kind of practical, although it was all CG. I'm sure it felt very. There was a very practical feeling to it, and I loved the way it looked, and I loved the fact that they did it. I absolutely loved that bit. So, yeah. But when I was watching it, I was kind of thinking, yeah, people are gonna hate this. People are gonna hate this because she's never shown any. You know, the kind of Star Wars fans who annoy me are the ones who tend to read every little bit of canon and non-canon detail, and my worry is that those sorts of people will be like, well, but she never been trained with the Force, therefore she can't possibly do it because she didn't go through the Jedi Academy when she was a youngling and all this kind of shit.
There's that, or there's that's not how the Force works.
Oh, how do you know?
Well, exactly.
She ain't got enough midichlorians.
Yeah, but oh god, have we got midichlorian argument, people? I think I'm trying to be very. Like, I see most people's criticisms, and I can. It's like I was with Rogue One. Okay, I was one of the few people who liked Rogue One when it came out. Yeah. In a group of 4 of us, I was the one who was like, "Yeah, I liked it," because that's what I'm like.
I like Rogue One.
What?
I liked Rogue One.
Yeah,
I had problems with it, but I liked it.
I don't feel the demand to go back to it. And that's where I think my that and my reaction to Force Awakens is where my potential, like, I don't want to be bored of Star Wars. I don't want Star Wars to not feel special anymore started. Yeah. I feel just to diverge very slightly into Rogue One, compared to the main series of the Last Jedi and the Force Awakens, I feel what lacked in Rogue One was characterization. I don't remember a single name of a character in that film because I wasn't invested in them. Whereas Rey, Finn, Poe, and the old, the classic stable of characters, they're very strongly developed and likable characters who I care about. Whereas the Finn analog and the Rey analog in that, I don't remember their names even. Jyn Erso is the only one I know because I saw it mistyped by Phoenix Phil. Hey, Phoenix Phil. As John Erso recently, and it just made me howl. I was just like, is this a character we don't know, John Erso? So I know that one.
Gender swap cosplay character.
Yeah, that's me. I'm going to go as
John Erso. Yeah.
I was about to say I remember the name of the robot, but I can't actually remember the name of the robot.
Oh, K2SO for some reason.
That was it. K2SO. Yeah.
So that's actually the only memorable character in the film. Was
he was the only one that created that much empathy.
Alan Tudyk as K2SO. Yeah.
Slightly like psychopathic.
Yeah, cynical, snarky robot. Yeah, droid rather.
Anyway, so basically what I was saying was that I because of the reaction to Rogue One, and actually this is so much bigger than that. Like, I'm very much kind of like, we can all coexist, because have you seen this? There's now a petition to get this stricken from canon.
Oh, shut up! Really?
Yeah, like, it's so weird. Like, the reaction to this film is very very strong and very kind of indicative of the kind of internet that
I hate.
That doesn't we don't really want, or we don't need. But I'd rather not. I'd rather try and warm people back to the fire of reasonability, rather than
no platforming. Yeah, I'm with you.
Rather than strike them off. But yeah, in a rewatch, the Leia thing very much just works. Any minor quibble I've got with it, it's almost like they do. It's deft filmmaking. They linger on her face.
Yes. And the crystal kind of building, yeah.
No. This is before the chip even explodes.
Oh, okay.
So you see, Kylo Ren's all like, "I'm not going to kill my mama," and then those 2 TIE fighters coming in like, pew.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to her, and she knows it's going to happen almost, and she takes a moment. It's almost like she just closes her eyes and mouth and just.
Oh, okay. I don't want my lungs to explode.
Then she's sucked backwards.
Interesting.
And so you leave her in space, and it's weird. Even it's almost like she creates a bubble around herself.
Yeah.
Because even all the bits floating with her move with her.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's quite nicely handled. Like, if you're paying visual attention, it's quite nice visual storytelling. Yeah. So, and in terms of how the Force works, it's like someone on Facebook said, oh yeah, I didn't know they could do that or whatever. And it's just like I just assumed they could do that because they were doing it.
Yeah,
Like
that's how the Force. The Force is just it's like magic in Harry Potter. It's just an undo button. It's what you need it to be. In many
I
ways.
don't think it's like that. I think it's you could say it's like that because obviously they're making up these films as they go along. But it's almost like every film we've ever had did something else with the Force.
Sure.
It's not like the Force has always done the same shit.
Yeah, we didn't see the Force
every single
lightning
time.
until what was that, Jedi even?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And on the same note, actually, like, who the fuck was the Emperor before they did the prequels?
Exactly.
So who cares who Snoke was? Like, it doesn't matter. We've always had this, like,
yeah.
the Emperor was just a guy on a
guy.
screen.
Right, yeah.
Even in A New Hope, there was the Emperor, he was probably mentioned, but there was no idea of who he was. He was just someone out there. And then he was only a screen in the second one, wasn't he? When he had the big goggle eyes and didn't look anything like Palpatine.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was only later that we get backstories. This whole backstory thing bugs me a little bit, but anyway, we'll get to it. When a number 6. Snoke gonna die. Hey, 1.
I finally got one right.
You got 1.
Yes. And 1. And so how did you like how his death was handled? People have been like, well, but if he was reading his mind, he should have known. And so my overanalysis of it is, well, yeah, it doesn't matter. But my analysis of it is that Ben was playing with him because he was turning his own lightsaber in his hand, and Snoke was interpreting that as him doing what he was supposed to be doing when he was also turning the blue lightsaber with the Force. So he couldn't discern between the two. That, for me, solves it. That's enough. I don't need any more than that.
There's another layer to that where everything Snoke says is emotionally true.
Right.
He turns the lightsaber. He strikes his true enemy.
Yes.
I mean, it's true to what he's feeling, but
Sure.
It's not focused on the person he thinks of.
And if you really want to get into it, then like the difference, and this is kind of prequel stuff, but the difference between the light side and the dark side is kind of like embracing your emotions essentially, and being driven by your anger and that sort of thing.
Hate leads to suffering.
Indeed. So yeah, Snoke could be blinded to what is actually happening because he's not paying attention to the empirical or what's really going on in reality. He's paying attention to the emotional side of it and the hate.
Because that's probably what he can read off Ben Solo or Kylo Ren or however you want it.
Exactly.
And it's all true. What's happening is all true, and it's
Yeah.
a nice. I think that and a few other bits in this is how you truly do fan service, not in the Force Awakens kind of. Remember this bit, kid?
Yeah.
Kind of
Do
way,
you
because
remember this kind of way? Yeah.
It's like the bit in Jedi where Luke gets his lightsaber back
Yes.
because it's sat on the armchair of the Emperor in that one. In this, it's kind of used against the Emperor. So there's a lot of nice little parallels in there, and I think it's good. You've seen Looper, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah. Did Ryan Johnson direct that?
Ryan Johnson did direct Ryan Johnson.
Oh, okay.
And that was his last one, in fact.
All right. No, I like Looper. Isn't that like 6 or 7 years ago?
No. Oh, maybe it was. Yeah, there was a bit in that that's become something me and Luke quote constantly about storytelling and stuff. There's a bit where old Bruce Willis tells young Joe Levitt in a bar about time travel, and he just goes, well, me and Luke always do it. It doesn't fucking matter, but he never says fucking.
You done all this already? As me?
I don't want to talk about time travel shit. Because if we start talking about it, then we're going to be here all day talking about it, making diagrams with straws. It doesn't matter.
When I hurt myself, it changes your body.
I get the impression from having followed Ryan Johnson's career for however long ago Brick was, that he is a mild troll. So there is a little bit of that happening, where he's just kind of like, oh, you got a Snoke theory? It's like The Rock. It's like, you want to, you know who Snoke is? It doesn't matter who Snoke is. Yeah. You know.
I like that.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
We'll get into this. I think a lot of people. Go for it. You go.
I was just gonna say my level of Star Wars fandom. I came to Star Wars fairly late, so throughout my childhood, I was like, I'm a Star Trek guy because I had this false dichotomy. You're either a Star Trek or a Star Wars guy in your mind. Which
don't fuck him up.
And probably in my mid to late teens was when I finally kind of rewatched the original. It would have been probably when I was like 13 or 14 when the special editions came out, and that kind of reawakened the Force in me, and I watched it and finally enjoyed it. So, but I've never really enjoyed it outside of the films. Like a lot of there are people who play the video games, who read the comics, who want the merchandise, and I'll wear a Star Wars T-shirt, but I'm not mad for it. It's not that's not kind of, I'm not super duper sold on it in that way that I want every element of it. I enjoy the films for what they are, and outside of that, I don't really care that much. So what is in the films is to me what's canon. And I think a lot of people, when they watch these films, and particularly the angry trolls, or the people who are really, really upset about this one, they're probably watching it with an eye of like they know they almost know too much about it. And so when this doesn't conform, it's actually, in fact, I'm a bit hypocritical in this because it's exactly the reaction I had to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the film.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Go fuck yourself. Garth Jennings film, and I like Garth Jennings. I as a person on Adam Buxton podcasts and old Adam and Joe, he seems like a lovely guy. Didn't like his take on it because it was too different from the books, and I get the feeling that a lot of the Star Wars fans who are reacting to this are doing the same as I did with that, and they're going, this doesn't match up to some stuff that I've read previously, therefore I hate it.
Yeah, no, that's very true. There was, I think, Movie Bob, who I quite enjoy the work of on YouTube and Twitter and stuff, said something about like that's why a lot of people were angry, because it didn't reward their investment.
That's an interesting way to put it.
It wasn't something they could have predicted based on knowledge and things like that. And I get that, but it's there's a bit too much blame in that for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a big conversation with a guy I work with who was...
Well, it's too much entitlement in that, really.
There is too much entitlement in that, and that's what I worry about. There was a conversation I had with a guy I work with who was of that side of argument with this, and his line was something along the lines of people's expectations matter. And it's a valid opinion if you're within that community.
Sure.
If that's your valid, but I'm also of the way that's kind of like, okay, so whose fault is it that it didn't meet your expectations? Is it yours? Is it theirs? Do you need to address something in you? Do you need to address something in your fandom? Like it's that's a gateway. That's the starting point. That's not the I'm going to shut down this conversation about this film because it didn't meet my expectations.
Right.
So I find that quite interesting. The problem is a lot of people don't want to then talk about that because a lot of people don't want to navel gaze as much as I do.
Well, and self-examination's hard for a lot of people. So
yeah.
No, and that's an interesting thought because if I think about my feelings around the 2009 Star Trek movie, there was an element of that because I've been a Star Trek fan basically my whole life. Started with The Next Generation and all the Rick Berman shows throughout the 90s and early 2000s I enjoyed. I enjoyed the Next Gen movies for what they were. Really liked the original series Star Trek movies. Not as big a fan of the original series as some, but the movies with Kirk and Spock and McCoy are great. And then 2009 comes along, and I was frustrated by the resetting of the timeline, the whole let's diverge the timeline thing. But I made peace with it because I was like, well, okay, it's not the same timeline, but that doesn't mean we can't persist the other timeline, and that's what's happened essentially is that you've got the timeline of the JJ movies. And then Discovery, which we're going to talk about at some point, comes along.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the Prime universe, Prime timeline.
Yeah, because it's before the point at which it splits off, isn't it?
Pass. I think. Yeah. No, it's not.
That's a good point, actually, because it splits off.
It's not because it splits off when Kirk's a baby.
Kirk's birth, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. No, but there's two timelines.
He's 25.
So these two. They don't exist, and officially there's the Kelvin timeline, which is the JJ Trek, and there's the Prime timeline, which is everything else.
Okay.
And when they made the Discovery series, they made a deliberate point to put it in the Prime timeline, so it's going to match up with everything else that's been made outside of JJ Trek. But I think the Star Wars fans who are to Star Wars what I am to Trek kind of need to do that a little bit in their heads and say, yes, there's decades worth of canon here, and then lots of other stuff around it. We need to kind of accept this for what it is and move on and not be angry about it, because I'm not angry about JJ Trek. It's fine. They're not my favorite movies, but I can watch them. and actually Into Darkness. Not Into Darkness. What's the most recent one called?
Oh, Beyond.
Beyond was one.
I like the beats and shouting.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite Star Trek movies that I've ever seen. I loved it.
Oh, really? Okay, nice.
Yeah. We watched it together
Beats
over
and
the summer. I like the beats and shouting.
Did we watch it together?
Yeah, over the summer. That was the first time I'd seen it.
On television?
I believe I have a red boxed it or something.
This year?
Yeah.
Fuck, I have no memory of that. That's really weird. Okay. Nice. I really like it. I think it's really cute and really
I thought, yeah.
like it. Yeah, I liked it. I like everything.
Do you want to get to prediction number 7?
Yeah, sorry.
You're okay.
A retro character will show up. Possibly Boba Fett, possibly Lando. I thought that the guy in the casino was going to be Lando because they really danced around not naming him.
Yeah.
You know when they FaceTime Maz Kanata and they're just like, find the Master Codebreaker. He's like the best. I fucked him or whatever. He says.
Yeah. That was one of the moments where I was like, we didn't need Maz Kanata in this film.
Yeah. They wanted to get her in because, people like her and stuff and she sells toys.
Yeah,
I've just realised it should be called, this gag's probably been made by someone else, but the Space Time.
Space Time.
Space Time.
Yeah, there's Space Time.
Yeah, Space Time.
You thought that
if that's not been made by anyone else, I'm quite proud of it.
The Master Codebreaker was going to be Lando?
I thought so, because they just kept saying about the casino, and then I thought about,
gambling, and they always
gambling,
thought,
and, you old smuggler, all that kind of stuff. And I thought, because they just danced around naming him, it was really, in the first viewing, I found it quite awkward. Wouldn't you just say, if you were in a really precarious situation and someone else was like, oh, can you give me the name of that guy?
You'd be like...
You wouldn't say oh, yeah, you can find him wearing a red plum bloom by the high-stakes table at Canto Bight. You'd just be kind of like, yeah, Bill, here's his number.
You would, wouldn't you? Yeah.
And but that, even on second viewing, that evened out and I was fine with it because it actually feels kind of right. But because of that, I thought they were obscuring who the character was going to be. And my mind went to Lando.
Okay, fair enough. And then so after I'd sent this, I remembered that Boba Fett essentially ends up in the what's the big
Sarlacc
pit? Sarlacc pit. But I kind of thought maybe he could have gotten out because he has a jetpack. But I couldn't remember whether Lando died.
I think his jetpack goes off into
it does. You're right, it does. Yeah. I couldn't remember whether Lando died or not, and so I was worried that was me messing up the timeline and thinking this was in the timeline of Rogue One.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I was kind of hoping... I like Billy D. Williams, so I was kind of hoping he'd show up, but... Yeah, he didn't.
There's still time.
There is, that's true.
If they want to bring back older characters, he's your obvious go-to one, I think.
I mean, it was Yoda in the end. That's
true, actually. You're right, they did bring back characters, so I'm going to give you 1.5.
Okay, thank you.
A retro character, it did show up, and it was the proper... that puppet. First Yoda we meet.
I loved
the
it.
mad Yoda is the one that showed up. The one who was hitting R2 and trying to steal his food.
Oh, it was, wasn't it? Yeah, it was like when Luke first lands and he doesn't know that he's Yoda. It was that character, wasn't it? Which is kind of strange because he mellows out after that because he's almost kind of trying to test Luke's perceptions in a way.
You will be.
Yeah, with his half closed eyes.
Yeah.
But was it a real puppet or was it CG made to look like a puppet?
I think it's a bit both. It is a puppet. It was a physical puppet.
Cool.
But there's something about some of the way the mouth moved, and a lot of people have said it doesn't look right. It doesn't look like Yoda. I was fine with that.
Maybe he grew a mustache for a film that he cares more about.
They CG'd out Yoda's mustache. So his lip didn't look right. But no, I think there's some. There's a little bit of CG going on top.
It looked great. I loved the way it looked.
Yeah. It wasn't overlit. The blue Force Ghost bit wasn't overlit, but I guess nowadays the sort of the I don't even know what to call it. The kind of overlay technology is going to be a lot better. And if it was a physical on set thing, they're then putting that in around it.
Oh, that's true.
Whereas some of the other ones were like,
they were. They were really blown out. Yeah,
like Guinness and shit. But no, I was pretty happy because it did that nice. Luke's walk into the tree with his weird little smoke bomb.
Yes.
Firebomb thing, and it just kind of drifted past him. You saw the back of his head and his ears.
Yeah, that was a great moment.
And I was just like,
Yoda!
Oh shit,
it was
on.
Kind of a really exciting moment for me. I don't know why. It was one of those ones that got me because I didn't expect it at all, and then I hadn't read any spoilers or anything, so it really kind of I was like, yes, this is great. in the annoying way that people who do trailer reaction videos react. No way.
God, it's Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad. I mean, I doubt they would have put that in the trailer anyway. If you think about it, the
No.
trailer was, although it showed a lot of crate from the end of it, it
Yeah.
didn't really like it. The trailer I remember's big like sort of dick swing moment was was Kylo possibly. It was a bit bad taste in a way. Possibly going to kill Leia.
Yeah.
Which you get in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
that's
thought the
fine.
trailer was kind of nice. Actually, there was a moment with the crate stuff where I was very, very satisfied that first time round watching it and stuff. And I thought we were drawing to a close and you'd have that kind of like, didn't moment
Yeah.
and it would end.
Mhm.
And then I realised we'd never got to crate.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, there must be another 40 minutes of this. Because it is the longest one. It's like 2.5 hours or 2 hours, 40 minutes.
There was a moment like that where I thought, okay, we're at the end, and it didn't come. And I had the same kind of moment. It's like, well, there's plot holes. There's stuff we haven't wrapped up. We need to do yet. So, but yeah, to be honest, it didn't feel long. I've heard a few, or seen a few people who've said, "Oh, it's really long." It didn't feel long to me. I didn't have to.
I would agree.
So that was.
Yeah,
was a
no,
good
but actually, yeah, no, same. I think a lot of people have said that the Canto Bright stuff feels long, but there's really not that much of it. They've really, if there was more of that, they've really cut it back.
That's the casino stuff.
Casino stuff,
Okay.
yeah. Like, I think some people just thought that was very sort of B story television episode kind of stuff, and it kind of was, and I get that criticism, but we'll get to it. But
Sure.
there's so much of the film you don't get, and the best parts of the film you don't get unless you have that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the moments that gave me the biggest prequel vibes were related to that. The kind of escaping on the horse cows thing just felt like a pod race a little bit. And when they cut to out there's that kind of like pan across from the casino, from like you're seeing Finn and Rose, and
They were on the balcony with the goggle things.
yeah, and they show the track, and I'm like, oh shit, is it going to be pod racing? was my immediate thought. And then you
I
see
wonder
the
what people
horse
said if it
cows,
was.
galloping past.
Which I believe there is some evidence for, not for these creatures, but I think in one of the prequels there was somewhere where people were betting on some kind of racing or
Oh,
something.
fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
But I can't remember. It must be on Coruscant in Attack of the Clones.
Okay. I just noticed that number 8 is it just kind of shows how much I didn't remember what happened at the end of The Force Awakens, because at the end of The Force Awakens, in my mind, the Unimatrix Zero, whatever that stupid weapon, the Death Star was called.
Matrix Zero.
That's a Borg thing. Exploded, and the First Order was left in disarray. But that's not what happened, is it? Because they got their shots off and smashed up a bunch of planets.
Yeah, they killed the whole. What do they call them? The Resistance or the the New Republic or something?
New Republic, yeah. The One
you get those,
Republic, yeah.
The One Republic. They kill One Republic. They shoot out those kind of various sort of spidering things, and they get several planets, don't they? Because it cuts to that one balcony kind of thing, and you've got these kind of well-dressed kind of people who are just like, and then they just,
Yeah.
So
yeah, do you want to read number 8 because it doesn't
number
make
8,
any
sorry,
sense?
yeah. The First Order will rise. Will try to rise again, but I don't think they'll put another Death Star in this one. Do you think? Like one of the things I like about this one is the clearing of the dead wood. Both in terms of character and in terms of repeating Star Wars
Tropes.
Which I think actually it kind of. I'm not going to race back to watch them, but I think in doing that, it actually makes the prequels look better. Weirdly.
Yeah.
But
That's
we'll
true.
get to that
At least they didn't just do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, which is kind of like what both was great and bad about Force Awakens.
Yeah.
But do you think because J.J. Abrams is coming back for the next one, if you missed that?
I did miss that.
So we're going to have J.J. Ryan J.J.
Okay.
So do you think if
He's
it's
gonna,
a J.J. film, you get, and because of the reaction to this one, do you think you get a soft backpedaling?
I think there must be. If Disney are worried about people persisting with this franchise and worried about keeping the fans, it depends on how much it affects the bottom line, really. If this performs worse than at the box office monetarily, if this performs worse than The Force Awakens, then I think they have to. because it's, you know, the responsible thing to do for the investors in the stock, and, you know, all that shit that kind of factors into their decisions. If this does as well or better than The Force Awakens, I think they say, fill your boots, JJ, do what you want.
I think it's a very rough guess, but I think this one has to do worse because Force Awakens did so well. I think they have to know that the high watermark of The Force Awakens making like
1.4 billion or whatever it did.
Dollars,
Yeah.
can't be repeatable every year.
Okay.
I'm going to quickly look up the numbers, but I know we said we weren't going to do numbers, but let's do it.
That's fine. While you look up the numbers, I'm going to read number 9.
Yeah, go for it.
There will be a scene where BB-8 will appear to be dead. We will cut away from the scene, but come back later when it will be revealed that he survived, albeit a little battle-scarred. I thought
Is
we were
that
going to
really
get...
what you put?
Yes, I thought we were going to get the emotional, no, BB-8's dead, arc.
Cry for the
droid type thing.
Cry for the droid. That would have been a nice beat, actually, because... but instead you got nasty, evil analog.
Yes, yeah,
I think I'm crediting this to Phoenix Phil's wife, but BB hate.
Oh, love it. Well done, Mrs. Phoenix.
I think that's right.
That's marvelous. I love it.
If it's someone else, I apologize.
Let's just say it was Mrs. Phoenix.
She would hate that, I think.
Sorry. I thought we were getting that moment when the hangar got exploded. But he just kind of gets what against the wall and he's fine.
Did you notice his head came off?
I did notice his head came off.
His head came off because I quite like him in the X-wing at the start, using his head as a conductor between.
That was
circuits.
great. Wait, and
he was trying to do all that thing, and he cut back to him, and he had like 400 little sparks.
Yeah, that was fun. Where he's like kind of almost fingers in excuse my expression, but it was like burst dam or fingers in the dike kind of thing.
Yep. Using his sweet things, but yeah. So BB-8 didn't that, but that would have been a really nice beat. Did you enjoy BB-8 doing the I'm going to control an ATST?
I did. I thought that was pretty fun. I enjoyed it in the moment, and then kind of like immediately got vibes of R2-D2 in Sith when he has all of a sudden has a jetpack and sets the floor on fire with oil.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where I was kind of like where that popped into my mind, and I was like, stop it, and just enjoy this, because BB-8 controlling an ATST is pretty fun.
Yeah, I was slightly alarmed by how easy the top of the ATST just kind of ripped off.
Yeah.
They are not well made.
No, they're not well made at all, are they? Well, they must be hurried out, you know.
Yeah. I quite enjoyed those Canto Bite...
arm stealers, yeah.
Arm stealers selling tinfoil crap.
Tinfoil crap to both the First Order and the Resistance.
Yeah. The best thing about... We'll get into arms dealing in Star Wars in a minute. The best bit about that whole sequence seemed to be... and it relates back to the X-Wing thing we just mentioned. The way he was controlling it. In one hand, he was just holding what looked like a tube. Yeah. And then with one of those little things, he was just shooting sparks into the tube. It was almost like he had no idea what he was doing, but it was almost just like... But actually, those fight sequences, and I mentioned this to Jay just to see whether he got the same vibe too, both the post-Snoke death fight and that one in the exploded hangar bay, they both seem like fighting game levels to me.
Sure, yeah, I can see that.
Like the one looked like 360, like DOA or Soul Calibur, where they're back to back and they can fight in any direction, all that stuff. Yeah. And the other one looked almost like a 2D kind of Tekken
or Street Fighter.
All the background action, or Street Fighter, yeah. Where you had all the background action, which was the ATST and the troops, and then the Phasma and Finn were just going along in 2D.
I have some thoughts about Phasma. I hated Phasma in the first one because she was a nothing character.
Yeah.
Completely undeveloped. She's just a shiny stormtrooper with a cape. And I get that she's played by some Game of Thrones person. Fine. I'm sure she's
Gwendolyn Christie.
Gwendolyn Christie. I'm sure she's a fine actress. This is not a criticism of her. This is a criticism of the writing. But the way I wanted them to deal with Phasma's death, and I was praying and hoping for Phasma's death in this one, was for there to be an armada of ships, and a little 1970s display shows an exploded ship, and for Hux or whatever his name is, or one of his subordinates to say that was Captain Phasma's ship.
Oh, really?
And that's how you get her out of the series.
I bet Rian Johnson thought about it because he obviously he's like nothing.
Well, it felt like that scene felt like an afterthought, didn't it? To me, it did. At least it felt like we've got to tie this up, but we're going to do it in 3 minutes, and it will mean nothing. That was
Do
one.
you think Phasma's dead?
Yes, I hope so.
Right. I think. Well, I joked online that it would depend on how many toys she sold at Christmas, but I don't know, because it's like the first one where they leave her on the planet that's completely exploded in the garbage compactor or whatever.
Yeah.
But somehow she got off.
Yeah.
I like that they broke the mask and you saw that like slight fear in her eye underneath.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think you might see her again because she looks cool on posters. But again, it felt like a nothing character.
She just feels like a
bit.
prequel character to me. She feels like someone from the prequels, like what the hell is his name? A Watto, or not quite the level of a Jar Jar, because she's not comic relief, or maybe even Darth Maul.
Okay.
Her prevailing characteristic is that she's a badass and nothing more.
Well, not even that she's a badass,
cool.
but she looks cool, and it's a cool image and stuff. And actually, in that respect, Darth Maul is probably a really good comparison, because it was kind of like I was amazed that like if all she did in the first one was have a blaster pointed at her and go turn off the shields, and she just did it.
Yeah.
That there was no demotion or anything that came off the back of that.
Oh, good point.
So in this one, she's still got her position, and she's still just doing that same thing. Yet it would appear she never had a plan. Like, she could have just, like, in The Force Awakens, could have just turned on the shields again really quickly.
Yeah, I guess so.
But she just did it and then got thrown in a garbage chute or whatever. And then apparently, still a
trusted
proper
general,
battalion commander. But maybe no one else knew that ever happened.
Oh, could be. Yeah, in the fog of war, it's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah, a Kevin J. Anderson Phasma novel could really expand on the guilt she feels throughout her time. Maybe there is one, I don't actually know. But anyway, I don't mind. They did as little with her in this one as they did in the last one, and it was just kind of like, oh well, at least they didn't try and do any more. I would like that to be the end of her, but I have a feeling if it's JJ next time around, then she'll probably be back.
Okay.
You saw her go into a fire, like a big fucking ball of fire as well. But it doesn't mean they can't bring her back, because she was on a planet that exploded last time.
She have robot arms or something,
Just a head.
Just a floating head.
On like a what was his name? The robot Sith.
Oh, General Grievous.
Yeah, she's like her head on a General Grievous 4 lightsaber body. Right, what have we got next? Downbeat ending.
Yeah.
Oh, next and last, even. Downbeat ending. No, you're wrong with that one too.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a downbeat ending at all, really, in the end. It was kind of a parallel, just the visually thinking about it, there was a bit of a parallel to Empire, just because of this kind of staring out of ships type thing. But no, it wasn't a downbeat ending. I thought they were gonna. I thought this was going to be more of a parallel to Empire than it was, and I'm kind of glad that it wasn't.
I think it's more of a parallel than people think it is.
But not in the way that The Force Awakens was to New Hope.
Not in the way The Force Awakens is.
Yeah.
It's not a virtual retread.
Right.
I think there's a lot of really nicely done nods that people don't realise are nods. Like Yoda showing up. Yoda showing up is a perfect example of the kind of nod back to Empire Strikes Back that they should be doing.
Yeah.
It's light. It takes a little bit of thought to make you realise how close and how real it is.
Sure.
But that ultimately it doesn't matter. It doesn't stop the film to remind you of the thing you liked before.
Yeah.
So it's like, we've all seen this. Look, hey, it's this.
What do you think about the efforts at comedic moments in this?
Most of them work for me,
they land
actually,
for
but there's
you?
a lot of people who don't. I'm not sure about a "Your Mama" joke in a Star
Your
Wars
mama
film.
joke? When was that?
Right at the beginning. It's funny because everyone I mentioned this to doesn't remember it. You know when he's stalling with the X-wing.
Okay, I'll hold.
Hello?
Hello? Yep, I'm still here.
Can he hear me?
Hugs?
He can.
With an H? Skinny guy? Kind of pasty?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Look, I can't hold forever. If you reach him, tell him Leia has an urgent message for him.
I believe he's tooling with you, sir?
About his mother.
Open fire!
But there's a lot of snarky modern humor.
Yes.
But then I kind of feel like there's always been the humor of its time.
Sure.
In these films, whether it was Leia being like, "Get this walking carpet out of my way,"
Yeah,
or boring conversation anyway, we're in a lot of trouble or whatever.
Yeah.
Or what was it?
Never tell me the statistics or whatever it is.
Never tell me the statistics. Never tell me the odds.
Yeah.
Never tell me the odds. Or would it help if I got out and pushed?
Yeah.
When Leia says that.
Sure,
and,
sure.
Even through to isn't there a
my tongue is fat.
Doesn't hit someone. My tongue is fat. Doesn't someone hit Jar Jar in the balls?
Yes, something does hit Jar Jar in the balls, yeah.
Is it like a bomber or is it a droid or something?
I don't quite recall, but yeah, I do remember him kind of like, jumping around.
Either way, I feel there's always been this humor. This is a very modern kind of humor, and I think there was still some of this kind of humor in the last one.
Sure, there was,
but it's a bit more the delivery of it and some of the sentiment and some of the words are used are very now. But then, what do you want it to be?
Yeah,
I think it's very nitpicky. Most of it worked for me, but I lolled a number of times.
Yeah, I did too. When you try and put things in or take it out of the now, you end up with things like the language of Battlestar Galactica, where you've got Daggets for dogs and Yarans for years, and it just sounds silly in 5 years. Okay. And so I'm perfectly okay with using kind of contemporary style humor in a non-contemporary setting. I think that's fine. But most of it landed for me. I was still kind of in my stupor, maybe is the right word, when Rey hands Luke the lightsaber and just tosses it over his shoulder. I chuckled, but not as quickly as everyone around me, because I was still in The Force Awakens in many ways, and there's that. It's such an emotional moment at the end of that, and you see Luke for the first time in decades. You're seeing Luke Skywalker, and for that to be undercut with and I know this doesn't happen, but in my mind, the beautiful John Williams London Symphony Orchestra score. There's a record scratch, and he throws the lightsaber over his shoulder.
Imagine if
I know it doesn't happen, but in my mind, that's kind of that. It was that abrupt for me, but in retrospect, it was fine. The whole the stalling tactic that Poe used with old Gleason was pretty fun.
Trying to think what other ones there were in there.
Yeah, because I feel like there was a lot of comedy in there, but those are the two that really stand out to me.
Yeah.
There's the little station characters on Luke's island.
Oh, I did like they do look like stations, right? Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
That's exactly what I thought when I saw them. I was like, it's station.
It's station. I did like those, and I did like their
when the Rey cuts it with a lightsaber and it just smashes,
destroys their wheelbarrow, and they're just like,
yeah. I like the beat though, where they're just kind of looking at it.
Yeah, and one of them's still just holding one of the handles of the wheelbarrow,
exactly.
Just like,
what the hell? I just avoided death. And when there's the hole that she puts the hole in the hut as well.
Yeah. That's the moment where they're like,
yeah,
they're putting the bricks back in it.
That's right.
I was cleaning my blaster, it went off.
Let's get started.
Who were those things?
Caretakers. Island natives. They've kept up the Jedi structure since they were built.
I don't think they like me.
Can't imagine why.
And there's the stuff with the porgs. I guess the vegan moment for you, it was a comedic beat, wasn't it? Where Chewie's like struggling with the morality of eating a porg while being stared at by porgs.
People did laugh around me, and I didn't laugh. I took that quite seriously.
Oh, really?
Because I do. That is now going to be the explanation I give. Because I struggle anytime I ask you, like, oh, why are you vegan? And I give a different answer every time, because there's no one reason. It's not boiled downable.
No.
But now it's going to be, did you see The Last Jedi? You know that scene when the animal is looking at him and he's eating the animal? That. Like, it's a thing. It's a thing that can look at you.
Yeah.
Like, But also there's two other good examples of that. Oh, it was all in his beard though. I just didn't like it.
The milk.
That milk was in his beard.
And the stare, the kind of like creepy
satisfaction of the thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, but also then the animal rights thing is kind of a big one as well. I really like the animal rights. So actually, I don't know. I followed Ryan Johnson's career for quite a while. I don't know where he sits on the terms of vegetarian, vegan, whatever. Like I want to find out now because I feel like that has to have been made by someone who has lived this lifestyle because of the way you end up just relentlessly thinking about all this shit all the time.
Okay.
So, but
or,
anyway,
or at least has strong feelings on it. You know, even if they haven't lived it, at least he's got strong feelings on it. So yeah, I mean, I agree with that definitely. The reason I it wasn't message related as far as why I found the kind of the horse cows being released scene objectionable. It's just a whiff of the prequels, and also I thought, well, they're on this tiny. It's established at the start when they're parking on the beach, and you see that one like ship go off the waterfall. It's established there that that this is kind of like a small little island on a planet that's fairly remote. At least that's kind of the way I interpret it. So my thought was, well, yeah, sure, you released the horse cows onto the island into their natural habitat, but aren't they just going to be rounded up straight away again?
I have to admit, like, having grown up on a farm, I did feel that same way because, like, she Rose, when she's kind of, I'm trying to remember exactly what she says.
Go.
Now it's worth it.
It's enough. Again, this is where I come back to it's a kids' film thing.
Yeah.
And
that's
the kids aren't going to think about this stuff. It's simple enough that it'll work for them.
That's true.
And it's enough of a broad message that it will get them to think. Like, I wonder if there's certain elements of this that will get kids to question the relationship between their own engagement with animals and their future, and their engagement with food and where it comes from, and their engagement with, like, milk.
Yeah,
and
fair enough.
Animals that go when you drink that weird milk. It's just so fucking weird. It was all in his beard. I didn't like it. As someone who's got a beard that things get in, I just no, didn't like it at all.
No,
you will milk. Anyway, right. What else have we got on this to talk about?
Do you want to get to the end? We could talk about the Luke's reappearance.
Yes. Okay. So once we're on to Crate and then Luke coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you notice that his footsteps did not move the white layer of the planet?
No, I didn't.
I didn't know until it was pointed out to me. But it's another little deaf piece of filmmaking. They show a close up of his feet and he moves, and it stays white.
Well, there you
whereas
go.
Everyone else's footsteps have placed things in there. It's very telegraphed. It's very well handled.
Yeah, that's cool.
And there is that bit earlier in the film where when they're doing their I'm just going to call it space time again. When Rey and Kylo are doing their space time, and it's like, you can't be doing this. This would kill you, kind of thing. And it's kind of like, it's actually quite clever how they set that up in a way. Or very simple, I suppose, in being clever.
Sure.
How they set that up for then when Luke does it, it does kill him.
Right.
Essentially, like the power, the energy that it takes is just too much.
It's
I really dig it. But it did. The thing was, did it chime with you that like he suddenly had the Just for Men Chuck Norris beard and the short hair?
I in my mind, the way I rationalized it was he's tied himself up a little bit to come help.
In my mind, I went straight to the Simpsons. I shouldn't have stopped for that haircut. Monorail moment.
Yes. So I did, after it was all done and after he died, I was like, he was using the blue lightsaber and we just saw that get destroyed.
Yeah.
That was the moment where I was like, oh, they did telegraph it. But I didn't notice the bit with the salt.
Points. And he says there's a line really early in the film where he goes like, do you really think I'm going to stand there alone and face off the entire First Order?
He does.
Yeah,
then
and
he
it's
does.
just there's so
but he
many
doesn't.
little bits that are just really well peppered throughout it
Right.
that I think people miss. That it's so better handled than you think.
Yeah, and it should have been obvious when, you know, all the AT-ATs and ships were firing all their crap at him and, you know, making a crater there, and then he's just, you know, he just brushes his shoulder off. It's just like,
yeah.
But at that point as well, you're like, well, is he just as, you know, maybe he eschewed the Force because he was becoming as powerful as a Snoke, and he's just that powerful.
I thought about the Force bubble that Leia seemed to have created around her.
Fair enough.
I thought, oh, cool, maybe it's that. But I was also still worrying about the Chuck Norris weird dye beard that he had, and obviously, like it was kind of like I liked it because it was the same Luke you saw in the weird Rashomon flashbacks, which I really liked, where you had the 3 versions of the Kylo Ren thing.
Talked about it. Yeah.
But if it's another one of those ones where, like, there's a lot of horror movies that do it now, like It Comes at Night and stuff, where I feel like these filmmakers have seen all the films I've seen, but they don't have to be kind of Jaws and whatever.
Right.
Like, they're not modern films. And I've always felt this about Rian Johnson, but even more so on this one, that he's drawing on a lot of the stuff that I've watched, and I can look at things and just be like, oh shit, he's drawing like little threads from all these things, but not in a kind of Quentin Tarantino way, or not in a kind of J.J. Abrams Spielberg way. Like, it feels like...
Yeah, it's kind of more subtle in a way.
It is more subtle, but it's also more... it's just that it's less mainstream, I think.
Fair enough.
More so than subtler.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just kind of nice. And obviously I should think a lot of people are saying, like, oh, Rashomon, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
As if it's and I'm not trying to make it a highbrow reference, but it is one of...
It is what it is, yeah.
If I line off my 4 favourite films, Rashomon's in there.
Sure.
You know, and it was nice to see something do that. And the fact that I didn't notice it while he was doing it shows how well he's doing it.
Yeah,
it was only afterwards I was kind of like, fuck, you know, that was just Rashomon or whatever.
Yeah. I quite liked the way Kylo or Ben was just in a ship that was just hovering. Like very
it took me a while to figure out exactly where he was.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice moment. There was a bit of a moment where I was like, wait, the scale doesn't match up here for me. So when the ship drops down to let him out, and there's like a, you know, your traditional ramp that comes from beneath it, he almost looks like he's half the height of the ship. But
oh shit!
But when he's inside, the ship, you know, it looks a bit more voluminous to that. So that was a moment that was just like, huh, I didn't expect that to happen in a film of this quality. But it also could be me, you know, my messed up perceptions as well. One thing that was featured in the trailer that I felt was not handled brilliantly was, and it was just a visual thing, is those crystal fox things, which are kind of cool looking. The ice fox or whatever, salt foxes probably.
Ching, 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 ching.
Yeah, they're a cool visual cue, but they come in overtime in the movie.
It's sudden death overtime.
Yeah, they come in the sudden death overtime, and they're not as, you know, they kind of show them the way out, I suppose, in a way. But I felt a little bit let down by it in the fact that I was kind of almost promised that up front, and then I didn't get it until 2 hours and 15 minutes into a 2.5 hour movie. No,
you wanted more of them?
Minor gripe. Just because if something's featured in a trailer, I kind of think, well, it's not necessarily central, but it's going to be shown sooner than 15 minutes before the end of the film. It's minor. It doesn't affect my enjoyment of the film overall, but it was something that I took away. I was like, they used that image to sell the film, and then we didn't get it. We got like 2 minutes of it right at the end.
I don't remember them in the trailer, and I thought. Actually, I mentioned this up front. There's a few audio things I really liked, and the one that sits with me now is the fact that when Leia is on the bridge, and I don't know if it's TIE fighters or whether it's the X-Wings fly by, you hear the glass rattle.
Yes.
Like, it really goes... Like, there's that... You know, they're close enough that whatever pseudo-gravity the ships
shaking
have...
it, yeah.
Can shake it, and there's enough pressure or whatever. And I really dug that. I really dug some of the things that were buried in the sound design.
Mm-hmm.
And but I actually thought towards the end there wasn't enough of those foxes in the background of those scenes that you got normalized to them, that when they dropped out you noticed it. Because they're like they actually addressed that, like, where are those noises? And I thought there could have been even more of that ting 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 ting, you know, those fox guys banging around. I really loved that when there's that last one going through the rocks and they think, you know, there's no hope.
Oh, yeah.
He shines the torch in it, and it does that eyes thing where you get the kind of like foxes and other things have that kind of weird reflection off the back of their eyes. I really dug that they just bothered to put that in.
Yeah, it was nice visual
It's just
touch.
a nice feature.
I agree.
Other than that, I actually didn't think about them too much.
No, fair enough.
But I it's like everyone else's, worries and stuff. Like it's a fair criticism. Like if you notice them enough in the trailer that they weren't in there enough or whatever, then that's
And
a shame.
it wasn't that they weren't in there enough for me. It was that they weren't in there soon enough, I suppose.
If they went back and put one in random scenes throughout the film, like there's one on the bridge with Leia. there's one dressed up in a long ear suit competing in the race. And do you think that
It's got a tiny little kid on it.
Yeah. Do you think that'd be enough for you?
Or the little guy, yeah. Or the little guy who was feeding like quarters into BB-8 is riding one of them.
I loved, actually, talking of sound design, again, after that scene when BB-8 walks around, when he's rolling around, you can just hear those coins rattling
inside, yeah. I love that he uses those weapons as well. That was
until
great.
he fires them all out.
That was kind of fun.
And then the Benicio del Toro, who we haven't spoken about at all, actually, we'll get to him in a sec, he's just there picking up the coins and stuff afterwards and filling his pockets.
Yeah.
What did you make of him?
I enjoyed his character, but I misidentified him when he first came on screen as Andy Serkis, and I was thinking he was something to do with Snoke.
Oh shit! Okay, that's fair.
He looked kind of like rough Andy Serkis, and I was like, is that Benicio del Toro? I couldn't quite tell because I didn't know Benicio del Toro was in the movie, but I knew Andy Serkis was in it as Snoke. So I was kind of thinking, is he a projection of Snoke to lure them away, given the fact it was to do with something to do with Snoke? And I don't know, and maybe that was the Massico Breaker who was. yeah, it's kind of like my my reasoning at the start of It Comes at Night, where I was like, oh, he's a post-apocalyptic hitman. It just kind of quickly built this theory quickly built in my head. But no, I thought I enjoyed his performance, and I get the feeling we're going to see more of him. I hope we do. If JJ takes over and kind of goes, we're never going to see him again, I think there'll be something missed.
No, I'd agree with that. He's indicative of a feeling I have about this film, where all our major players, are they I think they all have consistent character types.
Sure.
And I think in every moment throughout their specific storylines, they are true to the characters. They are, and I think that's what makes it good filmmaking for me. I don't think there's anyone in there who thinks at any point they are wrong, that they are doing the right thing. And he's a great example of that, because he does that. It's perfectly summed up in that last little thing where he's got his big old weird boxes of money, and he's got the First Order taken into the ship, and Finn says something like,
"Oh, take it easy, Big F. They blow you up today, you blow them up tomorrow. It's just business."
You're wrong.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's it. That was a nice moment. And that was one of the things that actually led to me thinking, you know what, they are going to blur the lines. They are going to kind of, that this film is going to make the point that there is no absolute good or bad, and we are going to start seeing a dissolution of the dark side and the light side, and we're going to start seeing the murky side.
I think we will. I think we
will too. There wasn't quite enough of it for me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and maybe that's right for the middle one of a trilogy of a series.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why it's the perfect equivalent of Empire Strikes Back. It's not the super downer kind of like, oh my god, let's leave it open ended. Like, how do they resolve this kind of question machine of
kind of sequel setup? Yeah.
Sequel setup. It kind of gives you hope, and I think it sets up, in being a well-rounded film, I think it sets up the franchise for the next 20 years. I think because of what you lay the seeds of here, you get episodes 10, 11, and 12 in, I hope, something like 12 years.
Yeah.
You know, because you've laid seeds here. You know, it's that whole constant thing of we are the spark that will create the fire of the resistance or whatever. And there's so much of that I feel like the power of this one won't be felt for a while. I think that's why it's you know, I could be wrong. I could be saying like this is bullshit when episode 9 comes out, but I think it's probably my favorite one, if not directly behind the first two.
Okay. And actually, just related to the this is the spark type.
And by the first two, I mean Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Sorry, carry on.
The other bit that kind of gave me prequel feelings was the stuff involving the kids who take care of the horse cows, and there's a moment at the end, and I actually like the sentiment of it. But it's just it was a purely visual thing that just kind of gave me Annie flashbacks, like little kid Annie flashbacks.
That's fair.
Was when the kid comes out after they're and I'm really confused as to where we are in terms of time. When he's talking, there's the kids talking that other language and you hear Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master, and stuff like that.
They're telling the story of the crate thing,
okay, so that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And then he grabs the broom with the Force. Which, a nice moment, but it was just the visuals of that, and you're kind of like your pit boss guy or whatever he is coming in to tell them to, that just that felt like something out of a prequel, just in a certain way. But the sentiment behind it, I'm fine with.
I mean, we all watch the prequels, we all watch all of them, but. I think this makes the prequels look better because it does those universe expanding elements, which you're going to need. Else it's going to feel so limited if you just keep it to the same beats all over again.
So true.
That have to happen, but it does them the right way, and it does them convincingly, and they feel emotionally true, and they kind of expand everything in the right way. And that's why I feel like anyone who criticizes the Canto Bight stuff, you can't have what I think is actually a beautiful moment at the end, which does show that there is a future for the Resistance with those kids. Like, those are the future rebel scum, right there.
Sure.
And I get that the kids aren't perfect actors, but they're telling, like, the acts that happen early in the film will become the legends that will inspire the future. And that's where I think it's really special.
That's interesting because I mean, you're turning me around a little bit on the Canto Bight stuff, because that to me,
I knew I could.
did feel like the weakest element of the movie, and when you mentioned B story and like a TV show type stuff, I was like, that actually is kind of what it seemed like. The fact that
without all of that, you don't get that moment. You can't have any of the build-up,
or at least it makes no sense. If you do stick that moment in, you're like, well, where the heck is this coming from?
Yeah, well, just be nothing. Just some dumb kids on the thing.
Yeah.
I think they built themselves a Get Out in, because there's that shot before they go back to Canto Bight. There's a shot of just everyone on the. Is it on the Falcon? Yeah, no, it's everyone on the Falcon, and it's a bit Ragnarok. It's a big like, hey mate, we're going to get on the ship, and do you want to come with us? And everyone who's left is on that ship, and there's just that little like tableau of them all speaking. Like, I forget who Finn's talking to, but he's talking to someone he's not talking to. He's not usually related to or whatever. Yeah. And there's Ray and Poe, and there's just all these characters are just there, and that's the moment where you could have gone like, this is what we've got. These are our players.
Yeah.
One, yeah, but you don't. You then you just slowly nudge across the galaxy, and you have this true show of the future.
Yeah,
and I don't think you get to that moment without having the Canto Bight stuff.
Okay,
you can't.
Fair enough.
And I think by telling that story of Luke Skywalker, and by having that kid, and that last moment where he's almost got that. The broom is a lightsaber if you look at the way that shot's handled.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a beautiful moment. But anyway, what else haven't we touched on?
What else happened? Plenty.
I've seen people bitching about Poe Dameron's storyline and how Holdo doesn't tell him the plan and how that's wrong.
Well, so I think one of the things the way I took that is and actually a running theme through this movie for me was people don't communicate well, and it leads to bad things. Now, I'm fine with that as a narrative device, but I kind of feel like there should be some learning from it, and I feel like that there probably was. But the running theme of this movie to me did seem like people don't communicate very well. And it leads to misunderstandings that leads to bad things. So the mutiny wouldn't have happened if...
What?
Mutiny.
Oh, it sounded like you said mutiny.
The mutiny wouldn't have happened. I'm saying it Welsh, okay? For Rian's sake.
For Rian Johnson.
Rian Johnson.
Mutiny.
We'll go to planet Merthyr next.
Planet Newport.
Anyway... The mutiny wouldn't have happened if she had communicated to him. in the way that Leia would have. If Leia wasn't laid up, and she had this plan of like we're slowly going toward Crate, then he wouldn't that wouldn't have happened. There wouldn't have been a like you're a traitor type situation going on, and that suspicion that potentially she was a traitor wouldn't have existed. So I can see why people would complain about it, but it was a narrative device. It was something that was used to further the plot. So
I disagree. Carry on. But
the lack of good communication was frustrating for me in the movie. Definitely, absolutely. I was like, if you just told him, then it would have been fine. But would it have? I want to hear. You're shaking your head. I want to hear what you say.
I think right. There are so many points, and I should have mentioned this earlier on, and it ties back into Snoke's. And how he reacts to Kylo Ren and stuff as well. I think there's so many bits in this where you check your entitlement, and smug people cause problems, and smug people with entitlement cause problems. And I think it ties into Rey, it ties into Finn to an extent. It definitely ties into Poe Dameron. It definitely ties into Snoke.
Okay,
but they're still acting like I said. I think they're still acting consistently and truthfully to themselves.
Yes,
as fictional characters, but. Look at it, like, take it like this, okay? Like, Leia's laid up. The last thing you know as you're the new commander, Leia did was demote this guy because he got the entire fucking fleet killed.
True. With the bombs in space, which didn't quite...
It's actually, apparently, there's a giant explanation of exactly how those work, and it makes sense.
Okay. That's what I thought, because initially, my initial reaction was... Wait, we're in space, there's no gravity, and then I was
why are you just dropping bombs?
Yeah, it was a stop it moment for me. So
there's something about they're propelled and then the magnetic thing, but also the fact that it's the same with the window rattling actually. A thing the size of a dreadnought would create a pseudo gravity, and they would be drawn towards it, but also they're propelled towards it anyway. But anyway, apparently that's in the books. Like those big fucking visual guides and Haynes manuals they make for this.
Yeah, the blueprints they make for all this stuff. So
it's all tied up in that. But anyway,
so your point about Holdo is that she's not emotionally connected to Poe in the way that Leia is. She doesn't know him, so all she knows is he got demoted.
He got demoted. He busts in on you on the bridge, being all like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
and she's just like, "Get the fuck out of here! You just got everyone killed." Like this. He has absolutely no right to be told what's going on.
That's true.
I think if you, not if you personally, but if people think that he has a right to do it, you need to look back at like how you analyze that character. Yeah. And I think it's so nicely handled. It's kind of like as long as everyone's on the same page, it's fine. But this is where Holdo and Poe Dameron aren't on the same page.
Right.
They both have a mutual love for Leia, but they've never. Their Venn diagrams or whatever have never crossed over. So he's just this prick. And in the entitlement stakes, like if you do go and see it again, look at the bit where they focus on him when
when she's being announced. Yes, I noticed that bit because he thought they were going to say him.
He thinks it's his fucking time.
They thought they were going to say and that was exactly because at that moment he did kind of come off as like, well, I knew it wasn't going to be you because you're just a flyboy and like you said, you just got demoted.
Yeah.
So how is it possibly going to be you? But he's central to the story.
Because he thinks it is.
Yeah,
because he thinks he's like, I'm the fucking big shit, like.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what I love about it. It's literally addressed, and again, it's kids' films. There's a line that literally addresses it, and people are missing it.
There were heroes on that mission.
Dead heroes. No leaders.
Yeah, because there was a great moment in that scene where everyone's cheering because the dreadnought's been exploded, and she's just looking at the little diagram, and there's like 3 or 4 red. Boop, boop, boop. I knew that was coming. I was like, there's going to be a solemn moment where she realizes this came at a great cost.
And that's it. So there's the smugness and entitlement, and the whole film I think is about how. To really achieve something, you need, and actually, Luke addresses it as well, doesn't he? He says about the Jedi Order, the past version of it, like you were saying earlier on. He says to think of yourself as more than that is vanity.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, that's
and there's so much of that runs through it. I'm actually getting really amped up about it. I want to go and see it again because it does run through all of it, and the film is ultimately about failure through that kind of
That hubris almost, yeah.
Hubris,
yeah, and that's true. And one of the moments from the Yoda scene that stuck out to me was that he said, that the greatest teacher is failure, essentially.
Yes.
And I was just like, Star Wars gets a lot of undue credit for being philosophically deep, but this one actually has some balls to it. Like, all of the attempts at sounding mystical and philosophic in the prequels come off like, Deepak Chopra stuff. That it sounds deep, but it really, 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 really isn't. That stuff actually, it has some substance to it, I think, and I think I'm thinking about it, and I want to go see it again now because of what you've been saying, and kind of with knowing that stuff, see how I see it differently. Because, like I said, that until we started talking, the whole I just want to call it Kashyyyk, and I know that's wrong, but the casino scene was how I've been. Canto Bite scene was like, okay, I would cut that, but now that you've said that, I want to go rewatch it and see what you say about it being kind of a linchpin almost it holds true. And I trust and value that it will, but I'm curious to kind of watch it.
And there's less of it than you think. I get the criticisms of it, and they're fair, but you don't get the real beauty of it without those scenes, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't get the future of it without that. All you do is get the comfortable bit that you already know.
Okay.
And that's not the world we're in. You have to go past that to really achieve something with Star Wars. It really does kind of almost expand it. And I know you had the expanded books and the fucking, like you said, I was that kid, by the way. I read some of those books. I read the Timothy Zahn ones. I read the comics. Like, I've dipped in and out of like the Dark Horse 90s. Star Wars is just 3 films and then a lot of ancillary media kind of universe. And so this is where I don't get some of the fans who feel like they are just coming off the back of that.
Well, and I worried that those are the same people who were the noisiest voices when The Force Awakens came out, who were just saying, it's just A New Hope again.
Right.
And you just can't please them, so why bother trying?
Yeah, which is why I hope they don't course correct with JJ in the next one.
Yeah, me too. I because they complain about, it's just a retread of New Hope, but then they do something that's somewhat new and different in this. See, I was worried when they were space timing with Maz Kanata. I was worried that they were just going to do Mos Eisley Cantina again.
Right.
I thought that's what was coming when Finn and Rose went off to meet the Master Codebreaker. I thought, we're going to get because actually there was a bit of a, and I don't know why, but in the theater that I went to, there was a grand player piano in the lobby. It looked like it had been put there recently, and I was like, are we going to get like a piano scene in where there's like a song or something, or like a band playing a la Mos Eisley Cantina, and we
or Jabba's Palace.
Or Jabba's Palace, good point. But we didn't really, we didn't really get that, did we?
He's got that mic and he bursts out,
and you see his like tonsils wobbling. Yeah, so bad.
Yeah.
Although actually having seen some of the original footage of that, and you can almost see the guy just wobbling the rubber puppet up and down. It's not neither version of that is great. But I'm interested to watch it again with that in mind. The notion that is kind of fairly key to getting us to where we got to at the end of the film.
I think so, and it's not as long as you think. And yes, I get the prequel vibes thing, but I think it makes the prequels look more righteous in what they were trying to do.
Okay,
because I feel like all the best things from the prequels, this film actually does well. Like, and a lot of people have said, like, "Oh, we've never seen arms dealers in the Star Wars universe before." Like, that's totally new. Yeah, but you also had the Camino guys who made the Clone Army.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you also had
the like tall weird things. Yeah,
you had those guys like Clone Army, like. And didn't you have? Weren't the who was it who made the fucking Roger robots?
Roger.
Was it the weird flying guys?
Oh, I think didn't they make the Death Star?
Were they making the Death Star? Yeah, the bug guy. Yeah. Right, yeah, because that's where you have the R2-D2 thing you said.
Right. So it's actually consistent. We have seen arms dealers from the very beginning.
Yeah, but I don't think they've ever been addressed in terms of weight.
No.
Whereas here you feel like that, even though, to be honest, there's a few sentiments that are kind of like, yeah, we really fucked them over. It's like, actually, You just buggered the MGM Grand. You didn't actually harm arms dealers. You know,
No.
maybe you stole their ship. You know,
Right. That's about it. Yeah, it's not going to put an end to them. That's for sure.
yeah, but I suppose it's just a middle finger kind of thing, isn't it?
It is. It's tokenism. It's symbolic.
Yeah.
And actually, that it brings an interesting dimension to it, because there's the I suppose, rethinking it a little bit on the fly here, the disparate aesthetics of the casino, Canto Bight, and the battles going on between the First Order and the rebels, or the whatever you call them. You know, these people over here who are fighting for their very survival and the fate of the universe are in this terrible situation, and then you've got people halfway across the galaxy who are gambling and drinking and don't give a care, essentially. That's kind of an interesting parallel to me, because even in the previous ones, in fact, my kind of key I suppose gangster go-to is Jabba, and he's and he kind of lives in that seedy world in a way, and these people are living in this opulent world, which is very very different. And I kind of like the idea that we meet more characters like Benicio del Toro's character, whose name was something like DJ or something. Really, I don't.
That's what it's credited as. I'm not sure it's ever said in the film.
I don't think it is. Yeah, and I remember seeing that in the credits. Who are these they're almost like war profiteers in a way. Yeah. And that they're benefiting from both sides, and I really liked his character for that very reason. And you've got the unambiguous side of that, where you've got people who are reveling in the fact that they're profiting off of mass death and slaughter by providing the very tools to facilitate it. And then you've got the people in between who are just kind of on the peripherals and just using their skills to survive and kind of keep going even in this bad situation, but aren't necessarily on one side or the other. In
the grand scheme of things, they're tiny people.
Yes.
Meaningless people, but they're the few people who can see the bigger picture.
Exactly.
And I think that's how you expand the universe, because
I think you're right, yeah.
You have everyone, almost like Jabba the Hutt, everyone you've just described is focused on quite a small segment.
Right. And they're kind of big in their own minds. You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
And we're back to arrogance or entitlement or whatever.
We are, yeah. Think about Jabba's palace. Like, it's a tiny little ship or like thing floating along a desert planet.
And I kind of like that. I just, like I said, it sort of blows it all wide open for me. And that's where it gets really exciting again.
Yeah.
Because you can then do anything.
Yes. So Rey's parents, it's revealed, maybe, and this is a maybe for me, that they are nobody. My concern is that they're going to undo that in the next one. Because it was just a way of Ben trying to get Rey onto his side.
My rebuttal is, because I wondered that, because, he could be lying.
Yes.
She says it first.
She says it first? She says they were nobody?
Do you want to know the truth about your parents? Or have you always known? And you just hidden it away? You know the truth. Say it. Say it.
They were nobody.
They were filthy junk traders who sold you off for drinking money. The dead in a pauper's grave in the Jakku Desert. You have no place in this story. You come from nothing. You're nothing.
But she doesn't know. There's so many ways of undoing that, unfortunately.
And they might.
They might. But I like I prefer the idea that they were drunk scrappers who sold her for their next drink,
for booze money.
For booze money. I think that's a I kind of want to get away from everyone in the Star Wars universe is related.
Why do you need backstory for everything? I always had this thing with horror movies where backstory is bullshit. Was you don't need the Michael Myers as a kid movie. You get that one scene at the start of Halloween.
Yeah.
And that's all you need.
Sure.
You don't need to know where the monster came from.
Right.
But I think actually that scene is in rewatching is again deftly created so that you can allow minimal room for them to retcon it.
I hope they don't. You shouldn't, let's say.
Shouldn't back out of it.
Yeah.
And if he'd just said it, he could be lying. Just to go back to Poe Dameron, I've got one last bit, because I think the Poe Dameron arc in this is perfect, but I think everyone's just ignoring it. It's his... He probably is going to be the leader next time round, because Holdo's gone, and they're going to have to do something with, getting Leia out of the picture.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do that.
But it's a shame it's not the last line she says. But when he has that moment where he's realizing what Luke's doing, he's stalling. It's a giant flashback to the beginning of the film and the heroes versus leaders, and it's his moment where he actually becomes a leader and he drops that thing back, and it's all about everyone. It's not about me or whatever.
Yeah.
Or it's not about this one moment. It's about the rest of time. And Leia just goes,
What are you looking at me for? Follow him.
Yes, yeah, I like that moment. That was a
Yeah,
fun.
and
That
that's
was
like
almost like a passing
it.
of the torch. It was.
That's the moment at which he could stand up and take. He's finally become a leader where he could take control of the thing. And I think you probably do see that if they leave that kind of couple of year gap, real time gap between this and the next one. He's your next obvious leader of the Resistance, Rebellion, Rebels, whatever you call it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. Do you have a problem with that arc having taken place in terms of real time within the film over like a day, though? He's gone from being there was no leaders out there to here you go, you could be the next leader within the space of like 36 hours. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just curious if you do.
No, because the film feels like it takes you on a journey. Like I've seen some people say the film feels like a whole season of a TV show.
Okay. Yeah.
And I agree with that. And yes, if you want to actually timeline it, then yeah, it probably is too quick. But
that's like uber nitpicky stuff as well. There's no need.
Yeah, I've always said movies could take you around the world in 2 hours.
Sure, it's true.
But this takes you across the fucking universe in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because if you get into timeline stuff, it's like, how long does it take to Canto Bight? And why are we doing the OJ freeway chase? Star
I know,
Wars?
yeah. It's a movie about space wizards. The idea that a movie about space wizards and an intergalactic force and robots with characters can stretch the levels of credulity or the limits of credulity when it gets to that point, when you've already accepted all of this stuff, is what I have a problem with. And but he wouldn't have done this because this is how it works. Like, no, you don't get to say that. The filmmakers get to say that.
It's the Looper, it doesn't fucking matter moment. Again, like remember, like, why were you not, when you were a child and you invested in whichever Star Wars first got you, you didn't analyze it this way. And like, this is
if
what
you can find this clip, I want you to put it in here. There's a great moment, and I don't know why, but this is the second time I've come to Willy Wonka in this discussion. There's that great moment where Veruca Salt is licking the wallpaper, and he says the snozzberries taste like snozzberries, and she's like, "Who ever heard of a snozzberry?" And it just cuts to him, and he's like,
"Wait a minute, must show you this. Lickable wallpaper for nursery walls. Lick an orange, it tastes like an orange. Lick a pineapple, it tastes like a pineapple. Go ahead, try it."
Oh. I got a plum.
Grandpa, this banana's fantastic. It tastes so real.
Try some more. The strawberries taste like strawberries. The snozzberries taste like snozzberries.
Snozzberries? Who ever heard of a snozzberry?
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams. Come along, come on.
There's a great moment where he's kind of saying, "No, I'm the one who's in charge of this narrative. It's fine."
Yeah, but all of that, everything you just said. I just think the film,
and I think I worry because I tried to go into the film without a cynical Mike Stokelaar, sorry Mike, eye on it. I think we all have an element of that in us, but it's
like you were saying, it's either taking it too much on like Disney's terms, like the vlogger kind of self-promoting lie machine kind of towards it, or too much on their own terms, like I'm the center of the universe kind of attitude. And again, like the characters in the film, neither of those are wrong if you're being honest to yourself.
Sure.
If you take it on what's best for the film, what's best for the franchise, and what's best for the characters that you're investing in, it's what it needs to be and exactly where everything needs to be going everything about this one makes me feel that they are actually respecting filmmakers and ideas and trying to do best by the trilogy rather than just like, let's make a load of, let's grab cash and get out of here.
Right, yeah.
You know?
And
Whereas,
they get, so was it, I thought I saw at the credit that it was that Rian Johnson was heavily involved in the writing of this, right?
his credit, I believe, is just written and directed by. I believe there may have been a co-writer.
Okay. But
the credit at the end, and this is where I was saying, loop back to the beginning. I was saying about if it's a trick, I bought into the trick, that they are very much making this appear like an auteur film, even if it isn't. Okay. And I know they've got a not a writer's room, they've got what they call a story committee or something like that.
Okay.
So I think a lot of these elements might have come in from other people. It's not just Rian Johnson sitting down and going like, "Oh, just create Star Wars."
No, but he might have been kind of like primary on the script, for example.
Yeah, and all the trolling and all that kind of like, not trolling, but all the mild little it doesn't fucking matter style stuff.
Yeah,
I feel like feels consistent to him, but there might be other things that have come in from elsewhere, and why not?
Interesting.
But it's doing right by them rather than worrying about the kind of like whatever happened on Rogue One, because it's clearly compromised, and the two guys that got fired off directing the Han Solo film and stuff like that. You know, all of this stuff that's been making you feel like, oh, maybe they are going more corporate with it. Even if they are, they've done right by the property with Last Jedi for me.
Good. Okay. Well, I'll be interested to see what happens with the next one. I'm a little more worried than I was now that I know JJ's coming back, but I was kind of hoping they'd just give it to a third guy or gal.
What they had at one point, but it was Colin Trevorrow who made The Lost World, and then he made The Book of Henry, and it just didn't seem to go well.
He fell out of favour with the elders.
Yeah, he was very unceremoniously disappeared from his Sir directing Episode 9 thing, which is a shame because he's a weirdly challenging filmmaker, and I don't mind him as a guy. Maybe it wasn't the right choice, but I don't know, because people got fired off Star Wars isn't.
Yeah.
I don't know, but either way, I'm so on board for the next one. Whereas at one point I was like,
Me too. There was a moment when during the hype of this, the run up to it, I was like, I don't know if I want another one of these.
Exactly.
But,
I don't want to get bored.
But now
I
want it
to be special.
Yeah. And I was like, well, if they're just going to keep churning these out for the next 20 years, am I really that interested? But this is you know, the excitement of this one after watching it was something that kind of made me think, okay, I could definitely do another one of these.
I will completely rebut all my comments to end, in that the through line of this film is, in many ways, if you want to boil it right down, is the blind following of authority.
Sure.
And if I like it as much as this, and the message is don't act out, follow your leaders, then Disney is kind of the empire again. and I'm thoroughly reinvested in Star Wars, possibly to a very, very evil message.
Interesting.
So, but that's my rebuttal to my own enjoyment of it.
All right. I like it.
And that was our Star Wars episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope my rambling, drunken nonsense towards the end was fun for you. I really did enjoy the film. Editing this made me really want to watch it again, so I picked it up on Blu-ray. Let us know what you think. We're on all the. I don't know what our social media handles are, but I know we're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The podcast's on iTunes. And I should probably get a proper list of all these things off Gerard. I'll actually send him an email. I should know this stuff. I apologise. See you next week, folks. Ooh, there's some people singing. Hang on a minute, I'm going to leave this recording.